Within the SOC, dashboards are super useful from both an analyst and a manager perspective. And we can use dashboards to aggregate and display data from all of our various sources that we're collecting within the SIM, which can provide us with that real-time visibility into our different events and incidents, or even just useful calculations or visualizations that can help paint a more holistic picture of what's going on within our network. And ultimately, dashboards can help us as analysts do what we're supposed to do, right? Like to monitor and detect, analyze, and respond to threats. And in Splunk, dashboards allow us to do just that. And so they can provide visual interfaces that allow us to monitor and analyze data from various indexes or sources. And we can create custom dashboards and include panels that display data in different formats, like charts or tables, or even just single value indicators or different statistics. And so we can basically think of any search query that we want to run, or any possible table that we can think of, or a chart that we can visualize. And we can put all of these results into a dashboard to provide us and our colleagues with real-time information that's formatted however we like. And so let's quickly create our own custom dashboard using the Apache Access logs that we've already integrated. And so to do this, let's head over to the Search and Reporting app. And from here, let's pull back the top paths or URIs that users are accessing on our website. And to do that, I'm just going to change our time here to all time. And then simply in our search, I'm just going to search for the index of http_sample. And so let's go down to the interesting fields here and click on the URI_path field. And this will pull back the names of the actual paths and files on the web server that were accessed or requested or posted to. And from here, let's click on the predefined top values report, which will append the search query to our existing search and allowing us to visualize the results. And so we can see by default, it integrated this bar chart, and we can hover over any of these results to see what actual path in the URI that they refer to. And so obviously, the /login.php page has the highest count. However, let's change this, for example, to a pie chart. And now we can see within our query here that the top command was automatically applied to default to display the top 20 values. However, that's a bit excessive for this pie chart. So let's make sure we focus on the most common paths and change this value to say 5. And now with that updated, we're getting a bit more information, but there's still a very heavy bias here on login.php. And depending on our baseline, well, this could be expected or some sort of malicious activity. However, let's save these results now to a dashboard. And to do that, we can head up to the Save As button here and go under New Dashboard. And so it's going to ask us for some information, for example, the name of the dashboard. And so in this case, I'm just going to call it Website Statistics. And we can leave the description as optional. Under permissions here, well, we can change this to either be private, so only visible to us, or shared with anyone within the Search and Reporting app. And so let's do that. And so Splunk offers two different kinds of frameworks for building dashboards. And so we have the classic dashboard here, which just uses XML for its creation, although we don't have to write a single line of XML code. And so we can get basic visuals here and a grid-based layout with different inputs and tokens. And so it's going to be perfect for our needs. But we also have the newer Dashboard Studio here, which provides a more modern drag-and-drop approach with advanced visual customizations and flexible layouts. However, for our case, again, we don't really need all of these modern features, so I'm going to go with the traditional route here and select Classic. And so now, as we scroll down, well, we can select a title for the individual panel, or the visualization that we're adding. And so in this case, I'm just going to call it Requests by URI Path. And so that looks good to me. We can keep the visualization type here as pie chart and just hit Save to Dashboard. And once it's been saved, well, we can now view the dashboard. Now, there we go. So our dashboard's been created and it's looking pretty good so far. However, it's still a bit empty. And so we can add in a couple more panels here to make it look more like an actual dashboard that someone would want to look at. And so as a second visualization, let's add a panel to our dashboard that shows us the count of connections to our web server over time. And so I'm going to head back to Apps here and go to the Search and Reporting app. And to create this second visualization, it's just going to be as simple as searching for our index, right? So our web server logs, and then using time chart against the actual count of the records. And so first, I'll specify our index of http_sample. And then under this, I'm going to pipe this into the time chart command. And then I'm simply just going to run a count. And again, this will aggregate and count up the actual records. And of course, make sure your time here is set to all time. And there we go. And so we're getting some statistics here, but let's switch over to visualizations. And so this looks cool. As a bar chart, it's kind of nice. However, let's change this to something like an area chart or a line chart. And there we go. So this gives us a nice visual representation of the amount of connections or individual logs that we received on the server over time. And obviously this kind of query and chart can be good for resource monitoring or app usage. But in this context, we might be able to catch things like we do here, like unusual bursts of higher traffic that go against our baseline. And when we dig into them, might lead to uncovering things like brute force attacks, or scans, or even denial of service attacks as well. And so I'm happy with this, so let's add this to our existing dashboard. And so I'm going to go under Save As here, and click on Existing Dashboard. And from here we have some default or built-in dashboards. However, at the bottom, we have our newly created dashboard. And so I'm going to select this one, and then as the panel title, well, I'm just going to title this something like HTTP connections over time. I'll leave the visualization as the area chart, and just click on Save to Dashboard. Alright, and there we go. So our new panel has been created and added to our existing website statistics dashboard. And so to view our dashboard from the app here, well, we can just go under the app bar and head over to Dashboards. And this will list out all of the dashboards on our system. And again, there are some built-in ones here, but we can see our own custom one here at the bottom. And so by clicking on it, it's going to take us to the actual dashboard itself. Alright, and there we go. So you can see at the top here we have our original panel that we created, and now we have this second one that we just added. And so next, let's add a third panel similar to what we've done before with the geostats command, and pinpointing locations to areas on a map. And so I'm going to head back over to the search column, and this time let's use the city field to aggregate our results. And so you can think about having this kind of visualization on our dashboard will allow us as analysts to see which countries or cities that requests are coming from. And so we can compare this data to our business strategy and other various metrics that we might have about our organization's customers or employees, and see if we can identify any high volumes of traffic that's occurring in any unfamiliar locations. And so to do this, first remember to select all time here. And for our index, well, again, that's going to be http_sample. And next, I'm going to pipe this over to the IP location command, so we can get that enrichment on our client IPs. And just to demonstrate this once more, well, now that we've run this, we have some additional fields here, like the city and the country. So Splunk is actually doing that IP lookup for us and mapping these different IP addresses in our logs over to different countries or cities. And this is what we want to create our visualization off of. And so that's exactly what I'll do. And so I'll pipe this over once again to the geostats command. And we're just going to do a count, and this time by the city. Alright, so let's run this command here. Alright, and there we go. And so now we're mapping the IP addresses found within our logs to their corresponding cities, and then mapping them on this world map here. And now we can play around with the format if we wanted to, or clean up the search, but for our example in this case, everything looks fine to me. And so let's go to Save As here, and save this visualization to our existing dashboard once again. And again, I'm going to select Website Statistics here, keep it as a cluster map, and this time I'll call it IP addresses by city. Alright, and I'm just going to save this to our dashboard. And I can just click here to view our existing dashboard and see the change. Alright, so this is starting to look like a dashboard now. We have some multiple panels going on. And so lastly, let's add one more piece to our dashboard. This time, let's list out a table of the top user agents that are connecting to our website. And so again, I'm going to head over to Search here. For the time range, select All Time. Remember, because we imported these predefined Apache Access logs, well, we're not getting real-time data in this case. And so I'm going to input our index, and just hit Run. And this time, let's scroll down to the user agent field. And from here, let's use the predefined report for the top values. Nice. And so once again, let's change the limit here to just the top 5 values. All right, so that looks good to me. However, let's not use a visualization in this case, and let's just use the table. And so we can see the user agent listed here, the count, and the percentage. And now, because this is going in our dashboard, well, let's clean up the column names a bit. And so what I'll do is pipe this over to the rename command. And I'm simply going to rename user agent. And it's picking up my command history here, and this is exactly what I want to do. And so we're going to rename the user agent column here to a more professional user space agent. I'll pipe this again, and this time I want to rename count, and I'm going to call it count of events. And lastly, I'm going to rename percent here, or this third column, to just percentage. All right, so let's run this and see how our columns changed. Nice, so that's looking a bit better for a dashboard. So we have user agent, the count of events, and the percentage. And so I'm happy with this. So what I'm going to do now is save as to our existing dashboard. And once again, select our previous dashboard. And this time I'm going to call it top user agents. Leave it as a table and just save to dashboard. Nice. And so I'm just going to head back over to the dashboards tab now. And click on our website statistics dashboard. All right, awesome. So this is looking pretty cool now. We have our 4 panels listed here, but we can make it look even cooler. And so I'm going to click on edit here. And what we can do now is actually drag and drop the different grids or the different panels around. And so for example, this panel isn't taking up too much space. And so I can probably fit the user agent column right next to it. And so let's try that. And so I'm going to go down to the top user agent table and just drag right above it. And you can see it's now attached to my cursor here. And so I'm going to scroll up and finagle it around until it's just next to the request by URI path visualization. And then I'll just let go to drop it here. And there we go. So we now have our table with user agents on the left and our URI path pie chart on the right. And we could go around and resize these other elements as well, or maybe stack them as well, but I think everything looks fine for now. And so I'm going to save this. And there we go. Within about 10 minutes or so, we were able to walk through setting up a brand new dashboard and populating it with some interesting statistics and visualizations, all by using various search queries that we've become accustomed to running already. And again, like with many Splunk components here, this barely scratches the surface. And so I encourage you to play around with dashboards some more and see what you can come up with. And to help you out, I'll link some documentation below as well. The possibilities are almost endless when it comes to creating these things. Right? We can add a section to display incoming alerts, or real-time connection or client information, or we can do more trend analysis and baseline charts. And so I hope this was a great starting point and introduction if you're interested in this kind of thing.